Hey Steelers fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome into our Pittsburgh Steelers video today. I'm going to get into 5 new free agent targets the Steelers could potentially sign in free agency over the next couple of days. Free agency is next week. Before we get into that though, there's a mailbag video happening on the channel the next couple of days. But all you got to do, go down below, #Steelers, ask any sort of question you want in the comment section, and be a subscriber. That's the key. And the chances of one of us here, one of the hosts, go ahead and answer your question can be pretty high if it's a good question. So go down below and ask right now. All right, so as the title of today's video suggests, I want to jump into the Steelers free agency period. Most specifically, 5 players the Steelers could go ahead and sign during what really is next week's NFL free agency period. As the new league year begins very, very soon, the Steelers are one of the top teams in the National Football League that have money to spend. I mean, literally right now, they will have about $32 million plus in cap space. And that can fluctuate. Let me just say that because we get to March 16th, it's like, Thomas, you said they had $32 million, but it's only $29 million. What happened to that money? Things change. You can cut people, you can extend people, you can restructure people. But right now, just think right about $30 million. Okay, right about $30 million in terms of cap space. That's a ton of money. I mean, literally, with Big Ben retiring from the National Football League, not only does that free up a little bit of extra cap space, but now has quarterback spot as a major need, offensive line is a major need, defensive line is a major need, cornerback can be a major need, safety can be a major need. A lot of major needs here. Some a little bit more major than others, but the Steelers right now have a ton of chances to go ahead and improve this roster in free agency. Let me just say this. Before we get into my top 5 players here, or 5 more players on our list, this is a loaded free agent class. Like every single year, we always talk about, oh, this free agent class has this good player, and this free agent class has that good player. And even though a lot of the good players might be tagged by the end of today, with the franchise tag happening by like 4 p.m. Eastern time today, there will still be a ton of talent out there. I expect Pittsburgh to go not wild in free agency, because you never want to just get all of your starters in one offseason, but I do think they're going to spend some money on some big name players, and that's why I'm including some expensive players on today's list that Steelers could go ahead and look to add. Again, do you want to get all your star players in free agency? No. You want to have a nice balance, and Pittsburgh has the 20th overall draft pick, so they can draft players if they want to, and they can, improve there. But I do think this is a good offseason for Pittsburgh, who very much can be competitive next year with a couple of tweaks here and there. Maybe offensive line, maybe you go to defensive line, maybe cornerback. We'll get into all that a little bit later, but this is a big-time opportunity for the Steelers to go ahead and sign somebody in free agency, and I think that they will spend their money wisely and in abundance coming up next week. Let me ask this question down below. Should the Steelers focus more on the draft or free agency? Now, I say why not both, right? Like the little girl from the taco commercial back in the day. Why not both, right? Why not get both good draft picks and free agent spending? Which would you rather them focus more on, though? Type D down below for draft or type F down below for free agency. Let's jump into our players here. Again, no particular order and no particular need, right? I'm just going to move around here and give you 5 more names that you could expect that maybe Pittsburgh could take a look at to sign, starting with Za'Darius Smith, the soon-to-be expected free agent pass rusher of the Packers. So, of course, Aaron Rodgers' deal just went through. The Packers are going to be a little bit tight for money. They're already way over the cap, and they're going to franchise tag Devontae Adams, meaning there will be some cap casualties there, and Za'Darius Smith is probably one of them. Now, he's been fantastic during his 4-year career with the Green Bay Packers. However, he did miss most of 2021 with a back injury. Before that, double-digit sack guy, 12.5 sacks 2 years ago, 13.5 sacks the year before. This is a guy who fits very, very well in the Steelers' current defensive outlook and really adds some great pass rush potential on the outside. And Pittsburgh does need a little bit more help internally. The run defense was kind of the issue, but you can never have enough pass rushers. And imagine Smith alongside TJ Watt rushing the passer. Like, you have to double Watt. I mean, there's no way you can't double TJ Watt. If you do, then he'll get 21.5 sacks again. But Za'Darius Smith, one-on-one, that's a double-digit sack guy, I mean, in a sleep. And so this is an option, I think, that is very likely. Again, you need the Packers to cut him first. I expect that to happen really the next couple of days. Like, it's going to happen at some point. All the reports are suggesting that it will. When it does, though, I think Pittsburgh should definitely look at pass rusher, and Smith is one of those kind of under-the-radar guys due to the back injury that could make a lot of sense. All right, ad break, pin comment down below. Name a player you want the Steelers to sign. Let me know who that is in the comment section right now. All right, next player on our list is another player that recently has reportedly going to be let go and into free agency, and that is Amari Cooper, with the Cowboys going ahead and franchise tagging their tight end today, which is kind of odd. They wouldn't franchise tag DeMarcus Lawrence or Amari Cooper. Either way, Cooper will go ahead and most likely be cut. Now, again, there's not a guarantee that he will be cut, but if he is cut, I do think he can 100% be an option for the Steelers to go ahead and add in free agency. They need help at wide receiver. I mean, we know that they're most likely going to lose Juju Smith-Schuster, and they have a couple other free agents we talked about over the past couple of days and weeks here on the channel. But if you wanted to make a big splash, and I mean an expensive splash, Cooper definitely leads maybe not that leads the list, but is one of the top of the list of free agent wide receivers, right? Devontae Adams is going to be franchise tagged, most likely. I believe that time you watch this video, Chris Godwin's going to be franchise tagged, and that kind of shortens the market a little bit. I do think Amari Cooper makes a lot of sense, and he's been fantastic the past couple of seasons in Dallas. I mean, really his entire career in Dallas since going over from the Raiders, but he was really, really good last year despite being on off the football field with injuries. 68 catches, 865 yards, 8 touchdowns. I mean, that would be instantly a number one wide receiver in Pittsburgh, the likes of which they have not really had since Antonio Brown. Like, you make the case Juju is a number one wide receiver, but Cooper has been an established number one wide receiver versus, what Juju has been, at least being off the football field this past year with an injury. If he is cut, I do think Amari Cooper makes a lot of sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, we're going to get into a quarterback I want to mention here in just one second. First, though, quick shout out to our friends at BetUS and your one-stop shop for betting on the March Madness tournament coming up here. I think Selection Sunday is this Sunday, right? It's coming up very, very quickly. JetSports.com/bet. Use that promo code Steelers125. Get you a 125% deposit bonus whenever you first sign up. Meaning, put $100 down, turns into $225 with our promo code, and then you can bet on some of the favorites in March Madness. Who do you think is going to win the tournament, right? Gonzaga is your, odds-on favorite, although does Gonzaga ever play anybody during the actual year? I don't think so. And you got Arizona, Kentucky, Duke will be very, very popular just because it's Coach K's last tournament. And finally, my beloved Baylor Bears, a Baylor alum, and yes, someone who was very happy when they won last season. You can bet on the Bears right now. If they win it all, you put your $100 down, it turns into $1,100 for you to enjoy. So a lot of betting opportunities there. My friends at BetUS, chatsports.com/bet. That promo code is Steelers125. All right, I mentioned quarterback. Let's talk about one, right? Now, I think Pittsburgh should go ahead and either trade for somebody, although that's getting a little bit more difficult with Rodgers potentially or officially staying in Green Bay, and so that's, option is off the list. But there's Carson Wentz, there's Russell Wilson, there's Jimmy Garoppolo. I would rather do that. However, if you want to sign somebody in free agency, maybe a bridge quarterback, no go further than Jameis Winston. Now, I'm not a massive Winston guy. I never really have been overall, but you can't really deny what he was able to do in 2021 pre-lower body injury. I mean, seriously, pre-lower body injury, he was very, very good. You think back to that week one absolute drubbing in Jacksonville of the Green Bay Packers, he threw like 5 touchdowns. I mean, 14 touchdowns. The interceptions were way lower. Completion percentage was right about 60%. I mean, literally, he has been a guy, at least post-Tampa Bay Buccaneers time, that looks like he could be a franchise quarterback. Now, again, I definitely would rather go ahead and trade for somebody, or maybe even draft somebody like Kenny Pickett. But if you want to sign a free agent quarterback, Winston is the best. I mean, he's the best of the free agent quarterbacks, and really the lone one, I think, on the list, as we'll see here in just one second, that you could actually feel confident winning football games behind. The rest would be very much kind of like a, we have nothing better, let's just go ahead and bring in a Teddy Bridgewater, for instance, right? Or a Cam Newton, for instance, heaven forbid. I think that Winston is your best option, despite the fact he is coming off the knee injury. It is rehabbing a lot quicker, though, than a lot of people were expected, as he's posted some videos on his social media account, right? Like, besides Winston, who else do you want? Cam Newton? I mean, I like Marcus Mariota a lot, but he hasn't really been a starter in a very, very long time. Jacoby Brissett? Hadn't been a starter the past couple of years. Mitchell Trubisky? Some people like him. Hadn't been a starter recently as well. Teddy Bridgewater? I mean, literally, the only player on this list who's been a recent starter is Winston and I guess Bridgewater, who kind of battled back and forth with Drew Lock up there in Denver. So I'm not saying that he's my number one quarterback option for the Steelers, but if you want to talk free agency, I think he's your best bet for Pittsburgh to go ahead and sign. What would be your interest level in Winston, by the way? Like a scale 1 to 10. 1 being like not interested at all, 10 being super interested. Let me know what that is down below in the comment section right now. All right, you want to make a big splash in free agency? You want to sign like the most expensive player in free agency? How about go ahead and get J.C. Jackson, the cornerback? Now, listen, here's the deal. Now, Pittsburgh definitely desperately needs a cornerback. They're going to get one at some point this offseason. And as we talked about on the channel, there are plenty of cheaper options. Like, you can not just, you can spend less than $10 million a year and get some good guys on the outside. However, if you wanted to get the best and the most coveted one in free agency this season, look no further than the former, I guess now will be a former Patriot, J.C. Jackson. This guy has been absolutely fantastic. 8 interceptions in 2021. 8. He had 8 interceptions. Now, there is some hesitancy when you want to go ahead and pay a cornerback big-time money in free agency. A lot of times in history, it hasn't worked out very well. However, this does seem like a young enough player, because he's obviously under the age of 28, who can really be great for the majority of the contract, and Pittsburgh has the money to do this. Now, will they? It's a different question, much like with Amari Cooper, right? Do you want to pay that much money for a wide receiver, that much money for a cornerback? Up to you, but you got to at least include him in the list here because he could be a very, very valuable weapon on the outside, especially if you're playing a guy like Jamar Chase twice a year in the AFC North. My final player on our list is necessary. It's technically a player, right? You see him, Laken Tomlinson, the guard from the 49ers. However, I see this as just an offensive lineman in general. Right? Now, Laken Tomlinson may be a perfect guard fit. He's been a very good guard in the Shanahan system and the Shanahan offense the past couple of seasons and would fill a massive hole right now on the Steelers' offensive line. However, I'm not just sitting here, plugging away for Tomlinson. I just want someone on the offensive line. Like, just go get anyone on the offensive line. I do not care. Sign somebody. You can't just draft all of your options on offensive line because the odds of the good ones being there at number 20 are a little bit slim. You can spend round 2 on that, sure, but you're only getting 1. I think Pittsburgh needs at least 2 starting offensive linemen this offseason, whether they're actually going to start or not, or just compete and be depth pieces. I definitely think the Steelers should 100% go ahead and get a guy on the offensive line, whether it's Lincoln Tomlinson, Brandon Sheriff, you look at a guy at center like the one from the Bucs who I'm blanking on right now, Ryan Jensen, or anybody else. On any of these players would be great. Get one on the offensive line. All right, let's go back through our list here, right? So here are the 5 players that have been officially declared as options for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And does it mean they're going to sign any of them? No. Does it mean that they're going to go ahead and get all of them? No. But I think these are at least options at different key needs and key positions that could make sense for Pittsburgh, who has plenty of money to spend in free agency. Starting with Za'Darius Smith. Now, if he's cut, which you think he will be, but when he's officially cut, then he becomes one of the top pass rushers on a very crowded market because you have Chandler Jones, who's going to be a free agent. You have Von Miller is going to be a free agent, so he's not just simply the best pass rusher, but he still is an elite guy who I definitely think the Pittsburgh Steelers should look to go ahead and add because you need more help rushing the passer, even if TJ Watt is as big of a baller as we all know that he is. Amari Cooper, is he going to be cut? Time of this video, I think that he will be, but maybe you watch this a week from now and the Cowboys went ahead and restructured his deal, right? So who knows? If he does hit free agency, I think the Steelers could at least take a look. He's going to be expensive, and maybe there are cheaper options. Talk about Mike Williams, who's going to be out there, maybe Allen Robinson, but you would be getting a guy who, for all intents and purposes, is an elite wide receiver and would help out whoever the young quarterback is, whether it's, Jameis Winston, as we talked about a little bit earlier, whether it's Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, trading for Russell Wilson. Either way, they all need a number 1 threat, and Amari Cooper is definitely that. Speaking of Jameis Winston, Winston is another option at quarterback. We talked about many of those here over the past couple of days and weeks, whether it's drafting Kenny Pickett or trading for Russell Wilson or signing Carson Wentz if he's cut. But if you want to just go for a straight-up free agent, Jameis Winston's the best of the batch. We talked about that, right? You want Marcus Mariota, you want Jacoby Brissett, you want, I think Nick Foles is going to be a free agent. Like, there aren't a lot of great free agent quarterbacks. Teddy Bridgewater, Cam Newton. No, none of those really make you excited. Winston, though he's coming off an injury, does to me make the most sense in terms of a free agent quarterback if you wanted to get one. The best player maybe in free agency overall is the cornerback J.C. Jackson for the Patriots. He'd be extremely expensive, but you want to make a big splash in a division that really you could look to trying to stop Jamar Chase for the next couple of years. Jackson is that guy. I mean, 8 interceptions in 2021. And finally, Lincoln Tomlinson, but more specifically, an offensive lineman. And we talked about plenty of those here over the past couple of days and weeks. Go get an offensive lineman. Whether it's Tomlinson at guard, Sheriff at guard, whether you want to get, someone on the outside in terms of like a Tavon, an Armstead from the Saints. It doesn't really matter. Ryan Jensen, the center. Like, go get an offensive lineman. You have the money to do so. It's why they're number 1 on my list here. Like, I would love Jackson and Cooper and Smith and Winston, but if you can't protect your quarterback, what are you really doing? That was the Steelers' big problem last season with Big Ben, being as old as he is and not as mobile as you would like him to be. He, regardless, couldn't really stay in the pocket for very long because he was running for his life. Go get an offensive lineman. Maybe Tomlinson makes the most sense. All right, we'll finish on this. Name a player from my list you want the Steelers to sign. Is there one of the 5, right, or somebody else? Let me know what that is down below in the comment section. Name a player you want the Steelers to get in the comment section right now. All right, ultimate day on our Pittsburgh Steelers newsroom video looking at some free agent options. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Plenty of great content, including a mailbag video happening later on this week. And give me a follow on Twitter at @RealThomasMott for your latest and greatest Steelers updates via the Twitter app. Again, Thomas Mott signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day.